Let's start by writing down the three different things that count towards the grade. First of all, 3 tests are 70% of the grade. The homework is 20% of the grade, and the paper is 10% of the grade. And then the problem, it tells you what you got on each of those. And notice that the 3 tests together are worth 70%. They're not, each test is not worth 70% on its own, so what we're going to need to do is get an average of the 3 tests, and that average is what counts towards the 70%. Also notice that in the problem it gives you the grades out of order, so just make sure you have everything lined up right. So the 3 tests are, you have an 83 and a 77, and you don't know what you have on the third test. That's what it's asking, so let's just call it X. And then the homework, next it gives you the paper grade, which is a 93, and then the homework grade is a 71. So we're going to do a weighted average of these 3 things: the 93, the 71, and the average of the 3 test scores. And we want that weighted average to be at least an 82. That's what we're hoping for. So that's what the problem is. So what we're going to do is just set this up as a weighted average. First of all, I'm going to take these test scores and average them. 83 plus 77 plus X divided by 3. That's just a normal average, not a weighted average. That average goes into the weighted average. So the average of the 3 tests counts for 70%. And then we have the homework score, which is 71, and that counts for 20%, so I'm weighting these by the percentages. And then the paper, you have a 93, and that counts for 10%. So those are the 3 different things weighted. Now, weighted average, you just add them, and then divide by the total weight, which in this case is 100%, so you don't have to do the division. And we want this to be equal to 82. So this is the problem, and once we have this problem, then the rest of it is just algebra. First step is to convert these percentages into numbers. Now what I need to do is solve for this x. So I'm going to try and shove everything on the other side and get just the x by itself on this side. So let's start by moving these 2 things over to the other side of the equation. So I've moved those to the other side. And at this point I've got a big mess of numbers there. I could just go ahead and run those through the calculator. 82 minus 14.2 minus 9.3, which is equal to 58.8. I have 58.5. Now I've got 83 plus 77 plus x divided by 3 times 0.70 equals 58.5. And what I can do is I can take the 3 and move it to the other side. That multiplies. Take the 0.7, move it to the other side, and then it divides. So I've got this, 58.5 divided by 0.7 times 3. And at that point I might as well plug it into a calculator and figure out what that is. And that turns out to be 250.714. I'll keep a bunch of decimal points until I get to the very end. I move this up. Okay, so now all I need to do is subtract 83 and 77 from both sides of the equation. Let me just consolidate this to make it clear. So if I move the 83 to the other side and the 77 to the other side, I have x equals 250.714 minus 83 minus 77, or x equals 90.7. I can round off to that. So that's not yet the answer because it's a word problem and it's not asking what x is. It asked what grade you need on test number 3, and so you could say something like this. You need at least 90.7 on test 3. Now notice that if you rounded this, you need to round to the next highest one, because if you had a 90, it wouldn't quite get you to what grade you need. So in this case, we round to a 91. So if you wanted to round to the nearest number, the nearest whole number, you could say you need at least a 91 on test number 3.